Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the show. And yeah, I'm sorry. You're here and you're stuck with me. No, Jimmy. I think he's playing hockey or something. He's at hockey, something. I don't know. Anyway, interesting that we find ourselves here in a very familiar place that I just don't understand why this keeps happening. You would think that when there's millions and millions and millions of dollars involved, somebody at these media outlets would, I don't know, pull their head out of their ass and realize that, we're going to end up having to pay another 100, 200, 300 million dollars for defaming people, for making shit up. Everyone, of course, remembers Kyle Rittenhouse. I think estimates that I heard were that he was paid by media outlets upwards of $350 million for defamation. You got Nick Sandmann, who was the teenager at the Washington, D.C. rally where the Native American man was playing a drum, and the media reported that he was jeering and making fun of him and all that. Turned out not to be true. Reports were that Nick Sandmann made upwards of $300 million off the media because they just wanted to paint a narrative and reported falsely. Well, here we go again. This past week in Florida, a Navy veteran, Zachary Young, who his company, when the failed withdrawal from Afghanistan happened, his company went in and was rescuing people, Americans, in Afghanistan and getting them out of the country. CNN decided it was a good idea to, basically make some shit up, make a false report, and report it and defame him by saying that he was illegally profiting off of this whole situation, and boom, now we don't know exactly what they settled for. They were found liable, and in the order, the jury did find that they had to pay him $4 million in lost wages, $1 million in pain and suffering, and that they were responsible for punitive damages. And it's estimated that the settlement for those punitive damages was $150 million. The View, how many times has The View been sued for defamation, and that they've had to pay out? How many times has ABC been sued for defamation of a person and had to pay out? I mean, two problems I have with that. One, obviously the networks don't care. I mean, they're multi-billion-dollar companies, obviously, because they're paying these people an absolute shit ton of money to be on their networks, and then they're also paying an absolute shit ton of money to settle these lawsuits or to pay out their losses in these lawsuits. The second part is what I really don't understand is why people keep believing the bullshit that these people say. I mean, it's obvious that their job is not to report what actually happened. In many cases, their job is to be first. They care more about being the ones who break a story, even if that story isn't true. And then even when it is found out that whatever they said isn't true, you don't ever get a retraction. Now, you do when, like on The View, you get a retraction when there's the threat of a lawsuit and they realize that, oh shit, this person's really going to come after me. But in general terms, you don't ever see a retraction. And if you do, let's use the New York Times or, one of these major newspapers. They'll print a story, they'll get a threat of a lawsuit, and so they print a retraction, but the story was headline news on page 1. The retraction, you'll never see it because it's in the bottom corner of page 32. But again, the bigger question is why the hell do people keep believing them? Anything they say. Again, they're not interested in being right. They're interested in being first. And that extends to all of them. That's Fox News, that's MSNBC, that's all the newspapers. They want to be the first ones on the scoop. And, they kind of have the mantra of, well, if we're wrong, we'll pay later. I mean, that's kind of what they're hoping for, I think. Now, it's easy to say, well, they say, all these people say stuff about Biden and they say stuff about Trump all the time. Yeah, well, that's perfectly legal. They're public figures. There's a big difference between saying whatever it is really you want to say about a public figure and saying it about a private citizen where you damage the reputation of a private citizen. The bar is much higher to prove defamation to a public figure. And it's not that it's low when you're talking about a private citizen or a semi-public figure, I think is sometimes what they're called too. It's not that the bar is low, but it is much lower than if you are a public figure. So I don't know. It always makes me wonder why people still consistently believe everything that these morons say. But I don't know. I'm not going to be able to answer that for sure, and I'm not sure we'll ever get a real answer to that question. But just my thought on that. Second thing I was going to talk about tonight is a lot of you probably have not heard about this, but apparently, obviously, it's Saturday night. Tonight's the end of, by the law anyway, the end of TikTok as we know it. Supposed to be tomorrow. If it hasn't been, if ByteDance, the Chinese company, has not been divested from it by tomorrow, which there's no indication that has happened. Divested and sold, I believe, sold to another company, which obviously at this point, that's not going to happen by tomorrow. TikTok's going to be shut down. Well, there's a ton of outrage over it. I don't know. Don't get me wrong. I love watching TikToks. I think there's some funny ass content on there. Obviously there's a lot of political stuff on there. There's some craziness that goes on there, but it's funny and it's good humored. And I think that if people know going in what they're signing up for, I mean, so be it. At the same time, I also understand the need for protections, because just like we have these people that constantly believe every word that the lying ass mainstream media tells us, you have people that don't understand, a lot of people who don't understand that, providing personal information to a foreign government, particularly an adversarial political government, China, that could be very detrimental to your future. They own your data. They have your data. There's nothing stopping them from using that data to do other things. Now, do I think that happens, or do I have any evidence, or have I seen where, in the years that TikTok has been here, that they've done that? No, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's not happening either. And nor does it mean that we shouldn't be doing what we can to ensure that, our country is securing or doing everything that they can to secure the data of the people in this country as much as possible. So I think it sucks. I think on one hand, it's obviously, I think they said there's 170 something million users of TikTok in the United States. So and there's a bunch of businesses that are run off TikTok. So yes, it's going to suck. Are there other apps out there that people can do these things on? Sure. Do they? I get it. And you're not gonna tell me anything I don't know. Like these people who, I say work really hard, but put in the time and the effort and all these things to build an audience. Some of these people had 5, 6, 7, a million, 5, 6, 7, 100,000 to a million to 2 million followers on TikTok. Now they're going to have to go to another platform and start building that up again. And the rules on the other ones are different. The parameters of what you can do as far as like going live and these things are different on the other platforms. I get that. But I don't know. I guess my personal opinion is I don't think one outweighs the other. So in other words, I don't look at this as a First Amendment issue, like they're trying to push it as one. And it wasn't presented that way, and the law doesn't present it as a First Amendment issue. And the court did not find it as a First Amendment issue. They found it as a national security issue, which is how the government framed it when they wrote the law. But at the same time, I get it. It sucks. A lot of people are going to be pissed off. A lot of people are going to lose a lot of money. But you're just going to have to find it. And the other big thing is all the people that, excuse me, that say they're going to Red Note. Well, I got news for you. Red Note is going to fall into the same category as this. Now that the Supreme Court has come out and said that this law is constitutional, any company that is owned or the data collection, data maintaining is owned by a foreign government will be subject to this law. And Red Note is 100% a Chinese company, whereas you can make an argument, obviously, that TikTok is not. The courts have deemed that the law banning TikTok starting tomorrow is constitutional, and there's no signs that. And I hear a lot of people saying, "Well, Trump said he's gonna put a 90-day delay on it." I'm not sure he can do that. I'm not sure constitutionally a president has the right to or has the authority to pause part of a law that the legislature and the former president has already signed into power. I think that solely rests with Congress to either do something to repeal the law, do something to modify the law, or do something to pause the law while they do certain things. So, it's great that Trump says that that's what he wants to do, but I'm not sure that he has the authority to do it. And the reason I think that is because Biden had also said that he was going to do an executive order potentially before he left office to pause it. But then the White House came out almost immediately after and said, we don't think that the president has the authority to do that. So I'm not alone in my thought process there that I think once it's signed into law, there's not much that the president can do without going back to Congress and having them actually legislate and write something that he can then sign that overturns it, repeals it, or modifies it. So I don't know. We'll see. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. I think there's going to be a lot of upset people. Rightfully so, probably in some cases. But on the flip side, people are probably going to have a hell of a lot more time on their hands than sitting there staring at their phones and watching TikTok all day and night. So there you go. You're going to have to find other things to do. I'm sure you have other social media platforms that you can spend much more time on at that point, if that's your thing. But yeah, NFL playoffs this weekend. I just got done watching the Chiefs win, beat Houston. Not a surprise there. Chiefs didn't look particularly good. We got the Commanders, and who are they playing tonight? The Lions tonight, and then you got the Bills. And God, I don't even remember who the other game is tomorrow. But anyway, those are the two games on tonight. And then we'll be down to the Final Four. So I hope you all have a great rest of your weekend. It's supposed to be. I don't know where you live when you're watching this, but for us, normally, the temperatures in the winter, it doesn't get like frigidly cold often. It gets cold. We get wind, and it's chilly. We've already, I think, gotten more snow this year than we've gotten in the last 3 or 4 years combined in 2 days. And we're supposed to get snow again this weekend, starting tomorrow. But it's been cold here, and this upcoming week, it's supposed to be super cold for us. I think it's supposed to be down in the single digits most of the week. So, man, I hope wherever you are, it's warm, or it's not going to be horribly cold. But if it is, stay warm. And, man, I can't wait until it's almost golf season again. Y'all have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next week.